Got it.
Well, I
I
just
got
wanted
it.
to say I've been a fan of yours for so long, ever since Sea of Shadows, The Ivory Game. Like, your work is just so impactful in the documentary space, and I feel like you open minds, you open hearts. Um, and this is a dream interview of mine to be able to talk to you. And
Oh, wow.
Yayuni is just such a beautiful film, Richard. I got to know what drew you to it in the first place.
Oh my God. Well, thank you first so much. Thank you. I didn't know you were such a fan, really. I had no idea. So this is a big pleasure. After I did Sea of Shadows, it was exactly that summer when we were premiering that it was all over the news that the Amazon was burning. So it was like, how many soccer fields per day are we losing? How many hectares here and there, the size of a country. And it's like it was this thing that I thought, why can't I recall a film about the Amazon and what's happening there that I've ever connected to? I couldn't name one, right? So I was like, maybe there's something missing, maybe there's an opportunity, because I felt that the world didn't really connect or feel like to the Amazon or feel like empathy or a loss because we're losing like what we need to breathe. This is like our climate, this is our world, and we're just losing it. And I felt like there's an opportunity here, and that's how the whole thing started. That I just started looking into how could I make a film about the Amazon that will reconnect people emotionally to what really matters, the lung of planet Earth, the heart of planet Earth. And that's when it started that I was looking for characters in the Amazon. I had never been there. I had no idea. And I started talking to NGOs and to journalists and other filmmakers if they know anyone. And somehow this name Juma Xipaia popped up, and she was like on a long list of names, but that one name stuck out, and I could never connect to her because there was nothing of her on the internet, only that she's been threatened and that she's been seen here and there, but like there's nothing specific. And it wasn't until a journalist actually put us in touch and said, Richard, you have to meet Juma. She's amazing. But just be aware, she's been in hiding for a year now in the forest in a safe house because she just survived a sixth attempt on her life and she actually doesn't want to talk to anyone. She wanted to disappear. And here I was as a filmmaker saying, hey, I want to make you like very famous. I want to put you on a big screen. I want to take you around the world and everyone should hear your voice. So it was like a very strange way to approach her. But in the end, this conversation happened and we got on a call and I felt this deep empathy to her. This emotional connection was immediate. She's so powerful. She's so unique. She has such a way of poetry when she speaks that I felt I'd found my subject. I'd found that person that will be the communicator to the world of what is happening in the Amazon.
And like you said, she survived six assassination attempts, which you put so well in the film and you portray it so well. How did you gain her trust?
Well, that was actually really hard because she didn't trust anyone, right? I mean, like, for example, I had to have a translator because she speaks Portuguese. I didn't speak Portuguese. And that translator that we had on that call became a security risk right away. She's like, I can't really talk to you because I don't know that person that you hired as a translator. This person could give away information that could like kill me. And that's when it hit me like, I'm really diving into a very serious issue here. And I'm putting her life on the line as well because having her in the film means potentially more threats, more risks, why did they try to kill her? Because she's an outspoken person. She's an activist. She goes on stage and she says the truth, to their faces. She slams it into their faces and they can't take it, so they just want to kill her. And usually they do, you know?
Mhm.
And in this case, it was all about trust building. So I really wanted to make sure she feels empowered. That was the first thing. I said, look, you're going to guide this story. I want to give you the co-director's credit and and you can have the power to really navigate the story the way you want to tell it because you're a storyteller. Down the road, by the way, that turned into producer credit because, as you know, she joined the Ministry of Indigenous People and she was not allowed to have a second job, and the director was considered a full-time job. So we had to take that out and move her to the producer. But equally, she was in control, and that gave her power. And she was very curious about that. She's like, Never has a white person before arrived and given me control and told me, you are going to steer the ship. I'm not going to put on you what I want to do. Like if you allow me in, you will guide the way. And that empowered her. And the next thing I had to do was actually learn Portuguese because I couldn't use translators. So I went in, took hardcore lessons, and like 6 months later, I spoke Portuguese. So now we speak fluently in Portuguese.
Wow.
And that again showed her that I mean business, that I'm for real, and that I want to really do this the right way. And then it was just spending time, like spending time going through many up and down moments. We hit a crisis almost every week, of some extreme thing happening, and navigating those moments together showed her that, I'm consistent. I keep showing up. I don't put her, in trouble. Um, and things started to develop from there. She just started to believe that this was a relationship worth pursuing.
Absolutely. And what was the most challenging scene or shot or day on film when you were filming?
Well, the one that comes to mind immediately is the most dangerous one. I don't know if that's fair because it's there was many challenging moments, but let me give you two. One was with her husband Hugo Loss when they were destroying these illegal ships that were run by drug cartels, who are these gold mining factory ships, and they were burning one down. This is what they do in order to cut back on the illegal gold mines, is they destroy the equipment. And that one time something went wrong and we weren't able to escape from the ship by our boat because it was tied in a way that jammed the chain that was tied to the boat and we couldn't get it off. And we almost blew up. Like literally an explosion was imminent within seconds to destroy the ship. And we were too close. So we would actually be blown to shreds by that explosion as well. And we couldn't get away. And they were trying to shoot the chain with their guns. So the one guy is using a machine gun, the other guy was using a pistol. Hugo was using a shotgun, and they were like bombard, like trying to hit this chain, which was like 15 feet away on a moving ship,
Wow.
and they had to hit it, otherwise we would die. And that was like a crazy moment where I felt this literally could be it. I didn't know what to do. They were screaming, "Jump in the water, jump in the water." But I was filming and I was thinking, they are not jumping. They want to protect themselves as well. So if they are not jumping, why should I jump and lose everything? Basically, lose my gear, lose my camera. Like, are they being overprotective? Is this for real? So I kept studying the faces as they were shooting and the desperation on their faces. I'm like, they must know what they're doing. So in the end, they cut the chain. We got away, but it was literally in the last second, and I felt, okay, this was a moment that will make the cut very likely because it was like epic and real. But it was also the closest I've come to death in a long time, and that was hard. But this wasn't planned. So let me give you an example of difficulty on the other side. Juma sometimes would get very emotional. There was a scene I remember in Glasgow when we were at the climate conference where she just found out at the back of the car that a friend of her had committed suicide on a call while I was filming her. And she started breaking down, right? And tears came and she was choking up. But she was continuing the conversation with her friend who was giving her the news and comforting her friend as well. And that was so intense and so sad. And I was so close in her face with a camera that I felt torn because I was like, I'm here to document her life and document these moments, but I need to give her respect and be, give her some distance so that she can mourn her friend who had just died in a meaningful way. So it was this balance of like, when do you turn the camera off? When do you retreat? When do you stop telling that story? And I had to go by total instinct. I was be like, how long will the audience be able to watch this before they will feel so uncomfortable that they want me to turn the camera away? And that's when I actually turned the camera down, when I felt that moment had come. And so finding those balances without jeopardizing our very fragile relationship of trust, that was a very big challenge.
Oh, I mean, I can only imagine. And Yayuni carries your signature thriller-like tension. What would you say, as a documentary filmmaker, is your signature cinematic mark?
It's follow the story, and just go with where everything will take you, and like don't be afraid to go into an adventure, and also to go into danger, to walk into danger. So maybe that is what is unique, that when I feel there is something going on that could be threatening or tense or extreme, I don't shy away, and I use a very fluid handheld camera that is reactive to what is going on. I never use a tripod. I always want to be flexible. Everything is handheld, everything. And I never repeat a shot. There is nothing ever staged. And that's why these films take a long time, right? So this one was filmed over 6 years. So it took time for me to really find the story, find the trust, and go in. But if I go in, I go in all the way, and people can trust me in that. They are not gonna get a half-beat story, like a medium average, Like it's always gonna be to the extreme, because I take it to as far as you can, right? Without dying. But I take it to the limits of what's necessary to tell that story. And I feel I'm also a very collaborative person, so I want to be friends with my subject. I want to engage them and get their trust, earn their trust, so that we become a family. And that intimacy that is created through that, I think, is another key part, that I'm always very close to my participants of the films. And this allows you to become close as well as an audience member. So I think that would summarize it.
No, absolutely.
But
And
maybe,
you can feel that in your work. What surprised you most about Juma's when the camera wasn't rolling?
well, actually, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is that nothing changes if the camera's on or off. She's always herself. And that was what I loved about her. Because when I met her, she was such a fierce, strong person, from calls, from conversations. But I was afraid if I put a camera in her face, and there's like a sound and a mic on her, she would become self-conscious. That anything that, like, actually, that she would start performing for a camera. It's possible. Sometimes this happens. People are conscious, they want to look good, they want things to work out a certain way, and then basically you're screwed. Like, then you're not going to have an authentic film. But on or off, Juma was always the same. And that was remarkable. Like, even to the point where how she was engaging with her husband, Hugo, in very intimate scenes, um, it didn't change. Like, whether I was there or not, they didn't care. Well, Hugo cared for a while, but she comforted him into trusting me and forgetting me. And it came to the point where they would have very intimate moments, arguments, love, emotion, things where you're like not supposed to be present. It was very close between them, and they just, nothing had changed. I was like hiding in a bathroom door, or I was in a closet. Yes, I would really get out of the way and try to be in the shadows. But I remember that one time in the evening when we had shot that scene where she was trying to stop Hugo from going on the next operation, because she was very worried. She was highly pregnant. She's like, "Don't go." And that turned quite emotional and intense. And it went on for like 20, 30 minutes. And then she was like, "Oh, you're still here?" Like, she didn't even notice that, I was there. And she was like, "Richard," she was laughing, "you've become like this piece of furniture in the corner that you forgot that is just there." So, so it's like, "I can't believe you're still here." I'm like, "Yep." But she also had no problems, like when she was included in the editing. So I flew to Brazil and I edited in Brazil, partly with her, right? Um, she never told me to cut out a scene, that it was too personal, that it was too this and that. She said, like, it's great to show life as it is. So yeah.
And your films often spark, policy conversations or public action, call to action. What kind of impact do you hope Yayuni has, both in Brazil and internationally?
Well, we have seen a few things happen that are very encouraging. One is that the indigenous movement is coming behind the film and that they feel this is their film. So they identify with Juma in a way that they think it's not about Juma. This is our struggle. This represents our fight. This is how we live in under threat, how we suffer as families. What is quite unique about this film is that there's a lot of family in there, love amongst family with the son, the husband, the unborn child. And many indigenous feel this is necessary to be told that this is not just like we need to get the illegal loggers extracted from our territory and we're going to come with spears or arms and like kick them out or call the police. No, this is like constant threat, constant fear, fear for your children, stress at home. It's like a, sorry, it's a multifaceted way of looking at the issue. So they have come behind it and they are rallying uh, that Yanuni is a film from the territories to the world. And that was a big success. The other one was, for example, that we're on a big festival tour and we had 35 festivals in the fall alone in the last 3 months and we won 20 of them. So that was another recognition where we're like, holy shit, like we're winning more than every second festival. That is recognition where we're like, okay, validation. We did a good job. We're winning. We won the audience award in Brazil, a Sao Paulo festival attended by mostly white Brazilians who have no idea what's going on in the Amazon. And that was a big win for us. That the white Brazilians voted for our film out of 400 films was amazing, so we're seeing that, but we're also getting the attention of like the UN, of like big NGOs. Greenpeace is coming on board. WWF wants to be involved. Amazon Watch is involved. They're like seeing this as I hear them say, the guy from Amazon Watch, Leila Salazar, she said, the woman, finally you have given us a tool that we can work with, a tool that can connect people emotionally to what we've been talking about for 20, 30 years. They just watched the movie and they were like, oh my God, how can I help? You know? So this was another thing that we really wanted is give them a tool. But most of all, it was for me, elevate Juma's voice, amplify it around the world, because I think people need to hear her. Because if they do, they will really connect and they will understand what it means to lose the Amazon and why we need to protect it.
Yeah, and I think that shot when she's in New York and she's like reflecting and she's in the regalia and she's, walking down the street and she wonders to herself, can these people in these concrete boxes even understand? Can they sympathize with us? I think that's a very
That
impactful scene and sequence. Um,
absolutely.
what do you want audiences to feel when they walk out of the theater? How can they help? And what's the call to action here?
Well, for us, it's very important that people understand that we're all on the same boat, like protecting the Amazon means protecting the air we breathe in New York or in Los Angeles or wherever around the world, because this is the lung that is cleaning our air. So we need to feel like what's going on there is is not disconnected from our reality. Yes, it's far away, but we need to do our part to see, you know, how this ecosystem can thrive and how the indigenous people can be protected, who are these last guardians of the forest. And this could cause various forms of like reactions as well, where you're like, well, if I understand her her closeness to nature, then maybe I could be more connected as well to nature in some form. And I think it then starts with little things that you adjust in your life, because every day there is something you can do to protect nature. It doesn't have to be, I don't need you to donate to the Amazon, like to the Juma Institute. It would be amazing if you do, and you can. If you go to our Instagram profile at Yanuni Film, you will find in the link in bio all the information of how to support Juma, her institute, and her people. But it's also about these everyday little things I think that matter. Like how do you feel about nature? How do you want to protect nature in your environment, in your surroundings? Are you gonna throw that thing in the in the river, or that cigarette butt on the street, or are you gonna think about what food you eat and where it's coming from? How do you think about gold, right? When you see these gold mines polluting the Amazonian rivers and killing all the children through mercury poisoning, in the villages, maybe you will think again of giving that gold watch to your wife or to your father or whatever, because gold can be very dirty and it's a very dirty business behind the gold. So there's various takeaways. I want to incentivize people to just rethink our connection as human beings to nature and that dependency, and that we need nature and need to protect nature for all of us to have a future and to be living a beautiful and healthy life.
Yes, because we are all one, we are all part of the same ecosystem, and it's important that we remember that. Richard, what's
Yeah.
next for you? I know you've got Jane Goodall doc on the work in the works. What's that? What else is
Well,
next?
that is that is next. That is so big for me that I'm not even thinking beyond that. Like right now, I just before this call, I was talking to my editor, who just sent me a rough cut of the film, and I'm giving him notes. And so for me, the Jane Goodall film is the legacy film to really kind of give her what she's given me, right? She put me on my path to become a filmmaker that talks about the environment and climate change and the extinction of species and social issues. And now, having spent the last 2 years with her, I want to give to the world the most beautiful Jane Goodall film and the most personal one they've ever seen, because she allowed me into her life like no one else as her friend Richie. She always called me Richie. And I traveled with her alone for 1.5 years, 27 countries, 5 continents. And we just had a really good time together. But I could also show how she was suffering to really, it was like a sacrifice, giving the world the icon that they all wanted, right? Like traveling around and doing all these talks and walking up on stage again and again at her 90th year was a sacrifice, and it came at great human cost on her side, but she had to do it. She felt the need to do it, and this is what I'm gonna put on the big screen, this beautiful human being that we lost, and it's gonna be the legacy film, I think. And for me, there's nothing more important, so there is nothing else. Of course, there's my family, and I'm looking forward to spending time at home. But in regards to work, this is the film I need to get right. It will be my most important work.
Well, we can't wait to see it, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. We're going to make sure everyone sees Yayuni and continue doing the great, impactful work that you do. I follow along with you on social media. I've been
Oh,
liking
good.
all the pictures of Jane Goodall for the past 5 years. You probably see me on there, so just a
I
huge
do.
fan, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and continue making that impactful work.
Hey, thank you so much. Amazing, amazing.